Hello and welcome to another fun crochet project. In this tutorial, we'll be making this beautiful mosaic pillow together, and I'll walk you through each step so you can follow along with confidence. If you want to follow the pattern, I've made the mosaic graph available for free on my website, so just head over there and grab it and use it alongside this tutorial. And if you'd like to support my work, you can do that by purchasing the ad-free written pattern for about the price of a coffee. I'm not currently monetized on YouTube, so every pattern purchase genuinely helps keep me creating tutorials, designing new projects, and sharing them with you. Thank you so much for being here and supporting my little crochet corner on the internet. So now grab your crochet hook and your yarn and let's get started. You will need yarn in color A and color B, a pair of scissors, a crochet hook that corresponds to the yarn that you're using, the mosaic chart, linen or cotton fabric for the back, and a zipper or some buttons to finish off the cushion. Before we start, I just want to take a time to explain the graph. So you can either print this out or use it on your computer as I'm doing. You will see it tells you to chain multiples of 8 plus 3, and you're going to repeat rows 2 up to 17. So rows 2 is this one right here, 2. And you're going to repeat this all the way up to 17, which is this one right here. After a few rows, honestly, once you understand what you're doing, you're not going to need to follow the graph. You can always it makes sense by itself. But anyway, when you come down here, you're going to see this where it tells you this blank square means back loop single crochet. SC is single crochet. So that's either the white or the blue one. So these will be the back loop single crochets. I'll show you how we do those in a minute. Where you see an X, so in all of these where there's an X, that is going to be a drop down double crochet, and I will show you how to do that. And where you see it says SC, that's a normal single crochet. That's only going to happen at the beginning. So we're going to be starting from here at the beginning and at the end of the rows. So where you see B, A, B, A, B, A, that's different color of yarn. So this row, if this is B, so if you start with a red or whatever color, white, then the following can also be white, or you can switch. In my case, I switched because as you can see, I started with the mustard and then I switched to white. So BA, that's just to guide you on color A, color B, color A, color B. Whatever color A is, that's going to be up to you, and whatever color B is, that's also absolutely up to you. So I hope you understand, and as we follow this chart, I hope you will not be confused. So I'm going to start with my white, and I'm just going to make a slip knot, and I will be making a chain of 43. So 40 is a multiples of 8 plus 3, so 43. For this, if you want to know how many chains I made for this, this was 67. So it was 64 plus 3. You can make it longer, or you can just use the cushions around your house and measure them so you can determine how wide or how big the mosaic cushion should be. Otherwise, if you want to do exactly what I did, this was 67 chains. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to chain 43. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pause the video and I'll meet you once you have the number of chains that you want. So here's my chain of 43. So there's no need to chain an extra one. Skipping that last chain that we made, and I like to go into the back bumps, if you know me, because that makes it look really nice and neat. So skipping that first chain, or the chain closest to your crochet hook, turning your work so you're facing the back of the chain, place a single crochet, and you're going to single crochet all the way up to the end. So at the end I'm going to have 42 single crochets. And I have reached the end. This is my last single crochet. And when you get to the end, you're just going to chain one, grab your scissors, and just leave about an inch of a tail, or an inch and a half, and cut that off and pull onto that. So you're done with your first color, and now we're going to go to our second color. And I'm reusing a yarn because I just don't want to waste. make a slip knot, and you're going to leave a bit of a tail, just about the same length you left on the first color, that is. So the same tail that you left, you want to leave about the same. And then you're going to chain one. You could chain two. I like to chain one. And then we're going to go at the beginning of our work. So we ended, you're going to see where these two little tails, and we're going to go at the very beginning where we made our first single crochet. And you're going to find that first stitch, and into there you're going to place a single crochet. So if we're going to refer to our graph, the first row that we just worked was this blank one right here. So this blank white line right here. And now what we've just done is this single crochet right here. And now we're going to be making back loop single crochets. So all this means is you're going to place your single crochets into the back loop. And you're going to do this all the way to the end. But then for the last stitch, we're going to make a full single crochet. So pause the video, continue doing this until you've got one more stitch left, and I will meet you there. So I have 2 more single crochets to make, or 1 more back loop, and then this is the last single crochet. So into there I'm going to make a normal single crochet, and then chain 1, leave a bit of a tail, grab my scissors and cut that off and tighten and secure my stitch. Just like so. And now we're about to begin making our pattern, or the drop down single crochet. So I'm going to bring my laptop so we can follow the graph together. Okay, so we're about to begin what's going to be written as row 2. And it's telling us to start with a single crochet followed by 3 back loop single crochets and then a drop down double crochet. So I'm just going to leave this here somewhat close. Bring my white yarn, make a make a slip knot, chain 1, bring it to your work, and then place a single crochet into that first stitch, just like so. So on the graph it tells us to make 3 back loop single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3, and then we have a drop down double crochet. So onto that next one right there, you're going to yarn over and double crochet into the bottom row. So not this one, but the bottom row. And this is why we work into the back loops. So this one right here, where you see me loop or insert my crochet hook, that's where we're going to place the double crochet. And then we're going to make 2 back loop single crochets. 1 and 2. And for the next one, we're going to do a drop down double crochet. And we're going to make 1 back loop single crochet. So as you can see, let me just undo this. This drop down double crochet has accounted for the next stitch after the previous back loop single crochet. So when you're going to go into the next back loop single crochet, you're not placing it into that one, you're going into the next one. And when you're doing mosaic charts, keeping accurate count is very, very important. So you're going to do 1 back loop single crochet and then a drop down double crochet. So for this one, I'm going to go to the stitch underneath and do a drop down double crochet. And then we're going to do 2 back loop single crochets followed by a drop down double crochet, 2 back loop single crochets followed by a drop down double crochet, and then 1 back loop single crochet, followed by drop down, double crochet, and this is what we're doing. 2 back loop single crochets followed by drop down, double crochet, 2 back loop single crochets, drop down, double crochet, 1 loop back, 1 back loop single crochet, so on and so forth. Just follow the chart and it's a repetition. And I'll meet you guys at the end so that we can finish together. Now I've got 1 more back loop single crochet to make, and then a normal single crochet, a chain 1, and cut off the yarn, and that's the end of our first drop down single crochet row. So onto this row, we're going to start with the normal single crochet. We're going to do 2 back loop single crochets followed by a drop down double crochet. So we're going back to, I'm going to my mustard yellow, make a slip knot and chain 1, and make a single crochet just like so. Now after the single crochet, we're going to do 2 back loop single crochets followed by a drop down double crochet, and then 1 back loop single crochet followed by a drop down double crochet, and then 2 back loop single crochets. So this row is quite similar to the previous one that we just did. 2 back loop single crochets and then a drop down double crochet, 2 back loop single crochets, followed by a drop down double crochet, and then 1 back loop single crochet and a drop down double crochet, and you'll repeat in your chart all the way up until the end of your row. So I'm left with 2 back loop single crochets, and then I'm going to do a normal single crochet, chain 1, and cut that off. So far, it's not showing yet. We can't see our pattern yet, but so far, so good. So I'm going back to my white yarn, and I'll make a slip knot and a chain of 1. So let me just get my graph. So in case I'm lost, I'll just count 1, 2, 3, and this would be my 4th tail. So I'll know that I'm on number 4 on the graph. So I'm just going to make a single crochet. That right here. I'll bring my graph and I will see that I am on row 4. So we're counting on the right, row 4. So I'm going to make a single crochet, which we've already done. 1 back loop single crochet followed by drop down, and then followed by 3 back loop single crochets, drop down double crochet, 3 back loop single crochets, drop down double crochet. This is one of my favorite rows because all I have to do is count 3 back loop single crochets and so on. So for the beginning, you're just going to do 1 back loop single crochet, then a drop down double crochet. Now we're going to start 3 back loop single crochets followed by a drop down double crochet, and then 3 back loop single crochets followed by a drop down double crochet. So pause the video because that's all you're doing. 3 back loop single crochets followed by a drop down double crochet. Make sure you're counting your 3, because like I said, if you make a mistake on one row, it's going to affect the outcome of the whole cushion. I'm at the end of my row, so I've got 2 more back loop single crochets before the final single crochet. And then I'll chain 1, cut that off, and just like that. So now we're going back to our mustard, and we're going to do row, we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, so we're now on row 5 on our graph. So make my slip knot and my chain, oh yes, my chain, followed by my normal single crochet. So on row 5, it's telling us to, after the single crochet, we're going straight into a drop down double crochet. After that, we're doing 2 back loop single crochets. 1, 2, and then a drop down double crochet, and then 2 back loop single crochets. 1, 2, and a drop down double crochet, and then 1 back loop single crochet and a drop down double crochet, and then 2 back loop single crochets and a drop down double crochet, 2 back loop single crochets, a drop down double crochet. So at this point you can now just follow your pattern. 1 back loop single crochet and a drop down double crochet. It's easier for me to tell because this is my 3rd cushion that I'm making so far, but just follow your graph, and like I said, I promise you it's going to get so easy. Before you even reach row 17, you're not going to need your graph anymore. It's just going to be muscle memory from then on. So pause the video, finish your row. I'll meet you guys at the end. I've got 1 more back loop single crochet before my normal single crochet, and then chain 1 to end the row. Beginning row 6, we're going to start as normal, chain 1, and connect with your single crochet. We're going to do 2 back loop single crochets, followed by a drop down double crochet, and then we are going to do 1 back loop single crochet followed by a drop down double crochet, and now we're doing 2 back loop single crochets followed by a drop down double crochet, 2 back loop single crochets and a drop down double crochet, 1 back loop single crochet and a drop down double crochet, 2 back loop single crochets, a drop down double crochet, and continue following your graph. I'll meet you guys at the end. Now I've got to make 1 normal single crochet and chain 1, cutting off the yarn. Starting row 7, number 7 on the graph that is, we're going to start as normal single crochet and we're going to join. Now we're going to do 1 back loop single crochet followed by a drop down double crochet, and then we're doing 3 back loop single crochets followed by a drop down double crochet and 3 back loop single crochets. There we go. Followed by a drop down double crochet, and that's what we're doing, 3 back loop single crochets and then drop down double crochet. So you can pause the video and we'll meet at the end of the row. And the row, I've got 2 back loop single crochets to make, and then a normal single crochet, chain 1, cut off and tighten. And then back to my white yarn, I'm gonna single crochet and join. So on row 8, we're gonna start with a drop down single crochet, and then we're gonna do 2 back loop single crochets, followed by a drop down single crochet, 2 back loop single crochets, followed by a drop down double crochet, and at this point the pattern is starting to show, and then 1 back loop single crochet followed by a drop down single crochet, 2 back loop single crochets followed by a drop down double crochet, 2 back loop single crochets, drop down double crochet, and then 1 back loop single crochet and a drop down double crochet, and just follow your graph. I'll meet you guys at the end of the row. I'm at the end of the row, so I've got 1 more back loop single crochet and a normal single crochet to end the row, chain 1 and cut off the yarn. Now I start in row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, row 9. Start in row 9, bringing back my mustard color, make a slip knot and a chain 1, and then we're going to join with a normal single crochet. We're going to start with a back loop single crochet followed by a drop down double crochet and then 3 back loop single crochets followed by a drop down double crochet, 3 back loop single crochets followed by a drop down double crochet, and that's all we're doing for the row, 3 back loop single crochets and a drop down double crochet. So pause the video and continue doing this, and you're going to finish the row. I'm not going to show you how we finish the row. We've been finishing the previous 8 rows together. At this point, you know how to finish your rows. I'll meet you guys at the beginning of row 10. I've already joined my yarn with a normal single crochet. So for rows 10, we're going to do 2 back loop single crochets. And then we're going to do a drop down double crochet, followed by 1 back loop single crochet and a drop down double crochet, followed by 2 back loop single crochets and a drop down double crochet, 2 back loop single crochets, a drop down double crochet, 1 back loop single crochet and a drop down double crochet, And now you're going to continue following your graph and finish your row. Starting row 11, I've already joined. So we're going to start by a drop down. After the normal single crochet, it's going to be followed by a drop down double crochet and then 2 back loop single crochets and a drop down double crochet and then 2 back loop single crochets and a drop down double crochet, followed by 1 back loop single crochet and a drop down double crochet, 2 back loop single crochets and a drop down double crochet. So at this point, I'm sure you can just follow your graph to know how you continue for the rest of the row. And I'm moving fast as we go because at this point, you're gaining momentum, your graph is starting to show and things are starting to make sense. So pause the video and finish the row. I'll meet you guys at the beginning of row 12. Starting row 12, I've already joined my normal single crochet. So we're going to do 1 back loop single crochet, followed by a drop down double crochet. And then we're going to do 3 back loop single crochets, followed by a drop down double crochet and 3 back loop single crochets and a drop down double crochet. And this is what you're doing, you're just repeating this 3 back loop single crochets and a drop down double crochet. And when I lay flat what we've just done, you can clearly see the pattern coming together. My plan was to take you guys all the way up to row 17. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more rows left, but really it's just a repetition of what we've been doing. After you have reached row 17, at this point, like I mentioned, you clearly know what's going on. So you can either just put the graph aside and continue crocheting without the graph, or after you've done row 17, you want to go back to row 2 and follow it from here all the way up to 17, because this is a repetition of rows 2 through 17, as I mentioned before. But otherwise, I don't have to show you each and every row because it's just a repetition. On this one, as you're seeing, we're just doing 3 double crochets, drop down, 3 double crochets, drop down. The only difference might just be how we begin, but everything else in the middle, it's the same pattern. So pause the video and we're on row 12, remember that. Follow the graph. And I've told you how to count. In case you lose count, you can always count the yarn tails to know which row you're supposed to go. So after you've reached row 17, again, after you have finished row 17, you want to follow this graph from row 2, if you're still needing to use the graph, that is. Otherwise, I'm going to finish the number of rows that I want for this. It's going to be very small. And then I'll meet you so that we can work on the back of our cushion. So after you've reached the desired length that you would like for your cushion, go ahead and block your work. And you're going to block according to the instructions of the yarn that you're using. I just used the steam method. I just put my iron on the steam setting and ironed it on top, not too much, and out iron the front as well as the back. And after you're done, this part is optional. You can leave it if you're okay with this, but then I prefer to just cut off the excess tails so that I don't have too much to work with. Now the next part is absolutely optional. If you want, you remember the number of chains that you made for this, you can just chain the exact same number and just do back and forth single crochets until you have the exact, sorry, I got a bit disturbed. So as I was saying, you can chain the same number of chains that you made and then work the exact same length, so the same number of rows, since this is pretty much made of single crochets. and then you can block it to get the exact same length if you want. But I feel like that's going to take forever, so that's why I prefer using my thrifted linen fabric. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to lay it flat on top of my fabric. So the idea is to just leave seam allowance on top, and I'm going to just leave about 1.5. So I have just over 1.5 at the top, and I'm going to leave 1.5 inches on the sides. All around. And why I'm doing this 1.5 is a bit too much, but because this is yarn and sometimes it tends to stretch. So I want to make sure I have enough. Plus, we're going to be cutting this in the middle to attach these. So I'm doing the very same thing at the bottom. We're going to be cutting this fabric in the middle to attach the zipper. However, if you're doing the different method where you're doing just crocheting it, you can either attach the zipper at the end or you can just enclose the whole thing. But I'm attaching a zipper because I'm going to want to wash it. I'm going to want to take it out of its case to wash it. So all I'm doing now is just joining the lines. And this pen is heat erasable. So when I use the iron, it's going to, the lines are going to disappear. Now get your scissors and cut this. Next, I'm going to take my fabric and I'll fold it in half. And I'll try and crease this line in the middle. Then I'm just going to cut the middle. I'm going to go to my sewing machine and I'll place these two sides together. And I'm going to sew here with 1/2 inch seam allowance. After you've done sewing, you want to go and press with your iron just to lay the seam flat. After you have pressed your seam, I like to fold it in half so I can find the middle. So crease that just like so. And I know that's my middle, and I'll do the very same thing for my zip. So I'll fold it in half. And mark my middle on both sides. So now we're going to take our zip, make right side facing down, and you're going to align the centers. And you're going to make sure the zipper part is laying right on the middle, right on that line. So you're aligning everything, the marks, and then you can go ahead and pin that in place. Now, if you're using a sewing machine like I am, you're just going to switch your zipper foot and just sew around here, and you're going to come through to this side all the way here, and then when you get to the end, you want to move your zipper down and join the top. If you're doing it by hand, you're going to follow the same format. If you're not attaching a zipper, then you can just ignore this part. Now after you've done the wrong side, you're going to take your seam ripper and you're just going to open this seam. And make sure you're not going beyond these tabs. So where the zip ends and starts. There we go. Now I am just going to bring this to the right side. Open my zipper like so. And this is what we want. So this will be closing. It's not the neatest, I know, but it's fine. It gets the job done. So I needed to move the zip downwards. Ooh, there we go. So that I can now close this part. So I can sew this top part shut. So just go back to your sewing machine or use your hand and sew close this top part just the exact same way we did this side, so that everything is nice and secure and your zipper won't be going anywhere. Once you're done, this is what your work should be looking like, and we have installed our zip. So now for the next part, you want to leave your zip open, and you're going to bring your crochet piece and you're going to lay it right sides facing each other, just like so. If you need to pin things in place, go ahead and pin. All we're going to do right now is go back to our sewing machine, or if you're doing this by hand, and you're going to sew. I just like to sew on the first row of my single crochets. So you're going to sew all the way there, down onto my first row here as well, and onto that row of normal single crochets that we were doing all the way up. Make sure you're also securing your stitches. If you need to tie a knot, do so. And after you're done, we're going to leave this area that we left to turn things in the right side out. And you can also just trim out any excess fabric on this side. I'm not going to go take you back on camera. Like I just said, right side, you want to make sure it's right side to right side. You have enough seam allowance on both sides, so the top, the bottom, and the sides. And you're just going to sew on the first row. And then on that single crochet row, the first row you made here, and the single crochet row you made on this side. Once you're done with the zipper open, you're going to use this to turn it right side out, and then we're going to straighten things out, and that will be it.